Hey all! In today's video we're diving into Barbie's long-forgotten MLM era thanks to the AVON company. You might know AVON for its beauty products, but did you know they had a range of special edition AVON exclusive Barbie dolls in the 90s and 2000s? Now the inspiration for this video came about after my dear Dolly friend Ken had sent me a bunch of very beautiful AVON special edition dolls that he got for a very good price. I'm very grateful for his generosity and I'm very appreciative. I'm glad to be able to own these dolls now because AVON was never really that big of a thing here in Europe or in Germany, so none of these dolls really were ever released here and are not really all that accessible for me. Before we take a closer look at all of the dolls that AVON had released in collaboration with Mattel, I wanted to give you a short summary of the history of the company. AVON was founded in 1886 by David H. McConnell. Originally, McConnell was selling books door to door, but to attract customers, he began giving free perfume samples as an incentive to purchase literature. Over time, McConnell realized that women were more interested in the perfume samples than the books themselves, so he pivoted. McConnell began producing a catalog that featured more than 100 products under the company name of California Perfume Company. The direct sales model still used by the AVON company today began with the California Perfume Company's earliest representative, Mrs. P.F.E. Albee. Mrs. Albee was the only general agent employed for the first 6 months of the business. During that time, she secured a number of workers. The system that we now associate with MLMs is the system that was basically put into operation by Mrs. Albee. The model was simple. Independent representatives would buy AVON products at a discount, then sell them to customers, sometimes recruiting more representatives. This is part of what people today often call MLM or multi-level marketing. In AVON's model, income is tied not just to your own sales, but also to how many people you recruit, how well they sell, etc. The company over time expanded into toiletries, cosmetics, skincare, and even toys during the festive holiday seasons. Their slogan, "Ding Dong, AVON Calling," became iconic because AVON reps went door to door carrying little sample cases and catalogs.
AVON Calling. Take time out for beauty when AVON comes calling. Use AVON Cosmetics and you'll be enthralling. For a pleasure-filled break in your daily routine, it's time to take time out for beauty. AVON Calling.
Making sense of Barbie collaborating with AVON, you have to put into context when they were initially released in the mid-90s. By then, a lot of the women who played with Barbies as a child back in the 60s had become mothers to daughters who then went on to play with Barbies in the 80s, and by the mid-90s most of these daughters ended up going to colleges or universities, so a lot of these women were basically at home alone and spent the time maybe filling up this void that had been created by collecting Barbies. So the collector market of the 90s was quite different to what it is now today, though maybe the motivation is similar. That's how there had been a huge amount of collector Barbies released in the 90s, from the holiday dolls to Barbie collector dolls and reproductions. A lot of the AVON representatives also promoted these releases just like Mattel did, and promoting them as sort of like a keepsake, like an heirloom that you would then pass on to generations that come after you, so it would then rise in value, which was total bogus because a lot of these dolls nowadays are fairly inexpensive, very easy to attain, and also quite cheap. They've lost their value. If anything, they didn't even keep it really. Now, AVON has often been mentioned in the same breath as multi-level marketing, so what's the difference? Is AVON an MLM? AVON has a large product line, a long history, and actual retail value in its goods. The focus is supposed to be on product sales. In MLM controversies, the red flag is often when recruitment becomes the primary focus.
All you have to do is pay a certain amount to be on my team, and I will pretend to give a shit about you so you can also be a gold digger. So grab that shovel, girl, and what are you waiting for?
AVON products are overpriced or of a dubious quality. This type of direct selling business model meant that many of the special edition products, among them these Barbies, was sometimes accessible only via representatives or through limited catalog. Well, this type of direct selling model that AVON was doing meant that many of these special edition products, like the collector Barbies, was sometimes only accessible via the representative. So availability, rarity, condition, all of these were impacted by this distribution model. Scarcity and exclusivity sells, so AVON's direct selling model allowed for limited releases, special promotions, sometimes even regional variations, because let's say someone who's a representative of AVON in California would be more inclined to buy spring or summer floral themed Barbies than, say, winter themed ones decked out in festive wear. So for a collector back in the day, that meant that certain AVON Barbies were harder to obtain. Some representatives might have also bought inventory hoping to sell or hoping to recruit others with them, but they ended up with a ton of unsold stock. That impacts to what degree collector could access certain dolls, or if the value would eventually plummet as the AVON representative didn't want to sit on unsold inventory. That's why 30 years later you'll have an easy time finding tons of these dolls in mint, never before removed from box condition on eBay for less than what they would have retailed for back in the day. Among 90s and early 2000s collector Barbies, AVON are some of the cheapest and most common ones to get, just like mid-90s holiday Barbies. I think the problem with a lot of these collector releases is that they lacked this nostalgia component that would then maybe make something more valuable because you used to play with it as a child, because they were marketed towards adults. And another problem was the accessibility, because a lot of these collector dolls were made in edition sizes that sometimes even exceeded 1 million. So therefore, it wasn't really a limited edition. A lot of these dolls were like dime a dozen. By the early 2000s, there was sort of like a crash in the collector market for Barbie collectibles. And I'm gonna read you a reader's letter from this Barbie Bazaar magazine that my dear friend Martin had gifted me. And you might get the idea why collectors were annoyed with Mattel then and stopped really being engaged with their collector releases. I stopped subscribing to Barbie Bazaar after several years because I got tired of all of the new Barbie news. Boring. Mattel ruined the new Barbie market themselves by producing so many of each doll. They made the dolls available everywhere and anywhere. They proved not to be truly collectible. Collectors enjoy the hunt, search, and the find. If you can go into any store and buy all the collector Barbie dolls, they are not really collector dolls. I have been a collector since my childhood, still have my dolls from the 1960s. I used to collect most of the new stuff from about 1988 until about 1997, including the great eras, classiques, Dolls of the World, Mackies, Holidays, and much more. All of these dolls are not worth even what I paid for them. Mattel also had a problem with renaming dolls with the same name. There are several collections of Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, and the same with the seasons. Really, give it a rest. I had hundreds of these types of dolls. I got so discouraged. I've been selling them off just to have room in my home. What a waste of money. At least, I know with the vintage dolls they will always be valuable. This is why so many of my fellow Barbie doll collectors have stopped buying new Barbie dolls. Thanks for listening to me. So you can see, by 2001, the collector Barbies kind of experienced a crash in the market. I found out that the retail price for some of the early 2000s AVON Barbies was $50 back then, so they would now cost you $100. adjusted for inflation, so you can see that the pricing might have been a reason why a lot of people ended up not buying the AVON Barbies, and you can also see that the value, it didn't keep up, it didn't stay the way it should, it actually went down by quite a bit. Now let's quickly take a look at every single AVON Barbie that was ever released, starting in 1995 with Spring Blossom Barbie, the first in a spring-themed series, as well as Winter Velvet Barbie. In 1996 we got Spring Petals Barbie, as well as Winter Rhapsody Barbie. 1997 saw the final release in the spring-themed series with Spring Tea Barbie. And instead of a holiday winter themed doll, we got the PFE Orbi Barbie in the likeness of the very first AVON, or then California Perfume Company, representative. 1998 saw the spring release of two fruit-themed Barbies for AVON. One was Lemon Lime Sorbet that you can see here, who's sort of like the African American variant, and the other was Strawberry Sorbet, who is like the blonde Caucasian doll. Now these dolls also had a third edition who was peach themed. Now that one was, along with the Strawberry Sorbet version of the doll, a playline variant that was also released in Europe, so therefore those two dolls were basically also accessible for me. I really like the Lemon Lime Sorbet that Ken had gifted me because of the three dolls. She's also the one who has the longest hair. She has this high ponytail with the hair going all the way down to her bum. And the collector variants that AVON released also came with a pair of capri pants, not just this crinkly skirt, as well as the stand, of course, though the playline version also had two little bottles of perfume. I really think that the Fruit Fantasy Peach themed doll is very cute. I really love her peach emoji skirt that she's wearing. Then we got these three beautiful and stunning, and I really want to have them, AVON representative Barbies. Now it's interesting to note that the Teresa in this lineup seems to have a teal or robin's egg blue coat, but that jacket that she's wearing, that's sort of like a Chanel tweed jacket, not a coat, but the jacket that she's wearing in the promo shot is purple, more of a lavender lilac. I would have preferred that color to the more like a teal bluish color that she ended up getting. 1998 saw the return of a winter themed doll with Winter Splendor Barbie. In 1999 we got Blushing Bride Barbie. Now just like the fruit themed dolls from last year, this one was also released as a playline version. 1999 also saw the release of Snow Sensation Barbie and the first of two Angelic Barbies. This one is Angelic Inspirations. Now Angelic Inspirations also recycles the gimmick of the little birdie that can sit on top of Barbie's finger that we saw in Songbird Barbie just a few years prior. 2000 saw the release of Ballad Masquerade Barbie. 2000 also saw the release of Timeless Silhouette Barbie. I really love this one. And the winter holiday themed doll is Victorian Ice Skater. And Victorian Ice Skater even came with a little music blocks that you could put the Barbie on top that would play a tune and spin the Barbie around. 2001 saw the release of the spring themed Simply Charming Barbies. I really love these. They all have a side glance and these feature a Generation Girl face, and it's very seldom that you see Generation Girl with a side glance. 2001 also saw the second Angelic Barbie release, Angelic Harmony. In 2001 we also got Sterling Silver Rose Barbie. Now this one was quite special because it was designed by Bob Mackie. Finishing up the releases in 2001 was Ring in the New Year Barbie, who came with a little ornament that would play a tune. I assume that the tune that the ornament was playing was Auld Lang Syne, because on some of the boxes they wrote down the lyrics of the Auld Lang Syne song. The spring themed release in 2002 was Victorian Tea Barbie. And then we got very stunning and gorgeous, and I would love to own these. Hooray for Hollywood dolls. Rounding out the releases, the holiday winter themed release of this year was Winter's Reflection. Now this doll is also quite gorgeous, I have to say. 2003 was the sort of beginning of the end, because this is basically the final set of the AVON releases that we got before a one-off later on, and 2003 saw the release of Talk of the Town Barbie, as well as the very gorgeous Exotic Intrigue dolls, and the holiday themed doll was Glamorous Gala this year. By the early 2000s, the collaboration with AVON and Mattel ended in 2003. It was shortly revived for just a one-off release in 2010. That was the Rose Splendor doll. It was designed by Robert Best. By the 2000s, AVON hit some challenges. MLMs as a model came under increasing scrutiny, especially around income claims, as the cost for representatives to not only buy the products but also to drive from customer to customer to sell them was getting higher and higher. There was also a ton of competition for AVON. Retail cosmetic brands, let's say Sephora, online shopping and e-commerce, also consumers' buying habits changed. Catalogs became less central. Online, social media, influencer marketing took over, especially in the beauty community of the 2010s. AVON tried to adapt, launching online ordering systems and modernizing their product lines, but it didn't really pay off. Though it was not really only the collector crash that would signal an end of these types of releases. I think the change in consumption habits, the change in shopping venues for people who then went on to buy all of their stuff online mostly, also signaled an end for the AVON direct selling business model. So therefore, this era of Barbie releases would also come to an end. I think it's kind of like a cute footprint in the long-winded Barbie history, and that's why I wanted to take a look at all of these AVON collaborations that Mattel had released for the Barbie brand. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, leave a dislike if you thought this video was trash, subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already, and I might be seeing you in my next video. So, bye for now.